So in general, we're going to try to kind of use this agenda going forward, where we kind of go through specific items. Okay, so first, let's talk about what's new in version 2.1. So here is the link to the release notes, and here are the main kind of like GitHub issues that we merged in that release. So one of the bigger improvements we made was to the V2 framework. The V2 framework is what we added a couple of releases ago that really kind of makes Hummingbot more professional grade. Now you can mix and match different components and build very sophisticated strategies. However, because there's more components, we need to make sure they're all working. So we improved the market data provider, which allows you to fetch historical data from each exchange. And then I think Fede also significantly improved the position executor. I think there was an issue with kind of like the way it was in retries, and now it's much more efficient. And finally, we also improved the stop loss calculation on the position executor as well. So I think with these changes, I believe the V2 framework should be much more usable in version 2.1. And so hopefully you guys can help, basically it'll help you build your custom strategies more efficiently. Version 2.1 also featured some improvements to the large centralized exchange connectors that we did. And yeah, Fede, feel free to jump on stage.
Yeah, we made a few improvements on the canals, on the market data provider, and the position executor. Basically, we were focusing on how we can make the operations stable, so you can run a bot with a market making strategy, and it never goes out of rebalance. So the idea is that with these new improvements, and that's why we need you guys from the community to test a lot and help the QA team also testing, is because we would like to make this strategy framework as robust as you want, and being able to turn on a configuration and never get out of balance, never need to manual rebalance. Is like, we would like to make this strategy framework something that you can rely on. Well, those are the changes that we were working on this release. I'm going to enter in more details probably on Friday, that we have the first live stream that, well, basically talking with Memento and a few community members. We found that probably there are a few ways that we can contribute more or give more guidance to the community members that are trying to solve some issues, so, or trying to work on a bug or whatever. So I'm going to open up a public space probably every week or every 2 weeks, when I'm going to jump on a live stream. Probably I will do live coding, and in the future, if this format goes well, I can either go and check the open issues that we have, explain how these issues might be solved, check the solutions that someone is providing, and give feedback online about that. That would be like a better way to collaborate, so you can ask me questions live and we can solve the things there. So those are like the updates to that. And also there is a very big new project that was introduced last month, that is the Quants Lab. I'm very hype on that because we have data collection, automated backtesting, and well, a lot of things that I'm going to also introduce in the live stream. Alex says, are new arbitrage strategies planned? Well, we are not planning to release like new strategies unless the community is asking for them. We really see a lot of usage or intents from the community to use them. So I think that the perfect place to work on that will be, it's like, remember that it's open source, so we don't have like in terms of development of Hummingbot, it's only me. In terms of development of Gateway or LARP, it's Mike. So we have a reduced team or reduced resources. for this. But if the community really wants to do that, we can either use part of the live stream to work on that and show how to set up and evaluate which bugs are available there. Or the other option is that someone, if you're interested in a specific strategy, you can define very well what has to be needed to do what you want to do, or which are the missing things that you want, and either post a bounty for someone to work on that, so the community can still work on things that the community wants, or you can create a bounty, and if we have time in the live streams, we can go through that, or yeah, just create the issue.
This is a really open source project, so when we try to, we always try to prioritize more like kind of core improvements. For example, like improvements like Quant Lab, which is going to kind of really expose more use cases for overall Hummingbots, rather than specific strategies. For example, when we do have strategies, it's more because those are kind of ones we're testing ourselves, and we're just kind of contributing back into the code base, what we're essentially running ourselves, and I think that's actually open to anyone out there as well. If especially, we're always looking for more examples of for example, V2 strategies or controllers. So if you guys want to have some custom control of your own that you want to see in the code base, you can just contribute it and ping us. We can kind of see if it makes sense and give you feedback in terms of like what would make sense as a contribution in terms of strategies. But we have been concentrating more on, I would say, on core improvements, because we've added a lot of things recently, and so we want to make sure that all those recent things are at least usable, and there's documentation and there's other things like that, and so that's why we'll try to focus on that in the next few months.
Yeah, but well, everything that can be improved, or if we see that there is a big opportunity in terms of doing arbitrage with Hummingbots, we are happy to work on that too. So if Alex, you think that, well, my cat is trying to showing the stage, but if you, Alex, think that there is a big opportunity on arbitrage, and you know that you can generate a lot of volume with arbitrage, and other people can also do it, we are going to do it. The thing is that we are only going to help or do things if it helps the whole community, and it's not like a one person thing. So if there is an opportunity to do that, we probably do it on a live stream so other people can see those opportunities. But well, as I mentioned, it has to be more like a community thing.
I think I mentioned, I think one of the big news want to announce during this community call is that we're going to start live streams this Friday. Here's the link to the YouTube channel, and Fede will lead them. So we're not sure exactly how regular the cadence is, but we'll try to do them semi-regularly. But I think there'll be a good way to kind of expose all the new things we've added recently to Hummingbot, like Quant Lab, as well as do some live coding for strategies like arbitrage, where the community really wants us to focus and add more content in that area. So just wrapping up the new features again in version 2.1, we had some major improvements to the CEX connectors, especially upgraded to the Bybit Perpetual, which I think because we upgraded to Bybit Spot in the last release. So now both Bybit Perpetual and Spot should be upgraded to the latest API. We also upgraded the new Coinbase connector. So Coinbase has changed, their API has changed a lot in the last couple of years. So now the new connector is called Coinbase Advanced Trade. I think there's still an old Coinbase Pro connector in the code base, but I think that's pointing to their old legacy API. This new one, Coinbase Advanced Trade, should be up to date to the new Coinbase changes. I think that I'm actually testing it with my own Coinbase account here in the US. So, but we do recognize that there are issues. There are potentially issues with these connectors if you're using them in different jurisdictions. So another connector, for example, Kraken, is one where we've had reports where people have said it works, in this scenario, but perhaps not in this other one, if you're somewhere else. So that's why I think we want to make sure that our connectors can be used everywhere. and we recognize in the U.S. people, have a limited number of exchanges that they can choose from. So if you have issues about Coinbase or Kraken, please let us know. We want to make sure that Hummingbot is usable by those people. I also want to highlight a couple of new connectors we added in this release. We had Dexalot before as a gateway connector, but because now we're building all the order book connectors as direct Python connectors using Hummingbot, it was important to upgrade Dexalot to that new standard. So thank you, Yang Kong, for doing a lot of work to make it work with Python. I know there's a lot of Dex-specific issues that he had to resolve in making that connector work. But we're kind of testing ourselves. It seems to work pretty well in most scenarios. So now you should be able to run the same strategies you run on any order book exchange with Hummingbot with Dexalot as well. So one thing to note is that I think Dashboard still does not work with it because there's some issues in building the library with Dexalot that we still need to resolve. So currently, I believe, but you can only run it with the normal CLI client. You should be able to run both the V1 and V2 strategies on Dexalot. And then we also integrated two other exchange DEXs into this release. We added gateway connectors for ETCSwap on Ethereum Classic. Thank you, Victor, for those contributions. And we also added a new connector to exchange called Tegro. I believe this is a order book DEX that is really 82 built. Thank you for that contribution. Overall, we want to make Hummingbot. I think that we always try to spend our own energy and bandwidth on the top exchanges, because they're the ones that are kind of like paying us. However, we also want to create a space for the community to contribute in their connectors as well. So hopefully we're balancing those two objectives. I do want to kind of call out a couple of initiatives recently that I think that the community should be might have interest in. One of them is our new affiliate program. So we've worked with our top exchange partners, and it's Binance, Gate, KuCoin, HTX, and Gate.io to create basically these affiliate links where users can sign up and they can get 20% off of the trading fees with that link. So we're excited about this because overall these are also our main kind of volume based fee share partners. So we also want to encourage people to trade on exchanges where eventually the volume they generate, a portion of it comes back to us through broker programs. So in addition, we're also starting to work with these exchanges on kind of new marketing initiatives as well. So there might be some trading competitions or other things in the works that we'll kind of notify you guys on in the announcement channel. But overall, if you don't have an account yet, or you're looking to create some new entity account, I'd recommend you start here because at no cost to you, you're helping to support us as well as as contribute volume to. I think the exchanges connectors. These also continue to connectors where we try to make sure that they're maintained well by either ourselves as well as by the community. And finally, I want to call out the live streams again, starting this Friday. So if you have seen this agenda, just bookmark, and I think there's a notify me button here where you can notify when the live stream starts. One thing to note here is that we're doing these live streams on our YouTube channel and not on Discord because we think YouTube is going to be a better place to kind of broadcast the broader world. For the time being, at least our community calls like this one will still be on Discord because we view them as kind of more. This is more kind of like intimate conversations with our longtime community members. And then the final thing I want to call out in terms of the news is this poll that we did about a month ago, where we basically proposed that we would take half of the fee share that the foundation earns from one exchange partner over the next 3 months, and we calculate how much it is, and we use it to basically buy back the HBOT token in that 3-month period. Overall, I think having some value. Overall, we view the HBOT token as a true governance token that it gives the community the power to control the future of CoinBot. But we also recognize that it has to have some inherent economic value. And I think that our objective has always been to try to create a sustainable open source foundation where the income generated from the fee share partners is higher than how much it costs to maintain the foundation, and that remainder can be put in the treasury and decided what to do by the HBOT holders. I would say, I think, unfortunately, we're still on the road to making that sustainability happen. But that's why we're really kind of trying to focus on growing our volume to our exchange partners over the next few months. So one experiment we're doing here is to so basically say, we're going to just track how much fee share we generate from one of our partners, and we'll take half of that and basically use it to buy back the HBOT token at the end of the 3 months. So I'm excited to announce that OKX was in fact the winner here. And OKX, I think they have an attractive fee share. I think they're sharing 50% of the fee volume that is generated by users who use Hummingbot on OKX. So overall, we're going to track how much we earn from OKX. I think we'll try to figure out where we can report this, perhaps probably on our website somewhere. Maybe set up like a dashboard where the community can track it. And then we can basically assess how much we earn in the month of November, December, and January. At the end of January, we can take that amount and then basically set up some programmatic campaign to buy back the HBOT token with that. So overall, we'll just see what happens. It's kind of experiment on our behalf because, truthfully, it's we don't. I wish we were actually making a lot where we can actually do this sustainably. But currently, we're actually still making less in fee share overall than we're kind of paying out in salaries to the operational team, and we have a pretty lean team. So our goal from a foundation perspective is to basically spend more time on the kind of the marketing front in order to make sure that people kind of see the value of Hummingbot, they can use it successfully, and the driving volume to the exchange partners that are sustaining us, like OKX, KuCoin, Gates, Binance, and HTX. Also, I should mention, we're also going to work with our other exchange partners like DYDX and Hyperliquid, some of the newer ones, to basically grow our affiliate relationships and try to have some type of volume-based incentive program for those newer partners as well. So that's it for the news. Hopefully, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them live or as we go. But let's move on to bounties. I think someone said that one of the open bounty developers for Chainflip is on the call. So GM. But we want to kind of go through bounties because we think it's an important part of why we do these calls, to try to communicate transparently, what was paid out, what's ongoing, the status, and try to get feedback from you guys on the bounties process. I should mention that there's the bounties board is the source of truth for all this stuff. So the link, if you guys don't know what that is, it's on GitHub. Maybe someone can post it in the chat. But we try to update that board with basically our the current status over bounties in real time. So the recently paid ones. So the last payout we did was, I believe, in September. We try to do them now with every release because they're typically the payouts are contingent upon some release of some new feature. So the recent one we did was payouts to improve the Bybit spot connector. This was actually a community funded bounty where a number of people from the community funded this particular bounty for Bybit spot perpetual. And so it was actually quite a lot to manage from our side, but I think it was a really good experiment to see if this would work. And to be honest, I'm really glad that the community was able to join up, fund this bounty, and the developers who made that improvements, hopefully captured value from that as well. So we also the DYDX connector was a big connector we added for one of our partners. So thank you to Yang Kong who did that one, and I think that was paid out recently as well. And then also we also paid out the candles feed connectors to Droopman, and I think Droopman earned that one. And then also a number of users earned these bounties to add various networks to the Uniswap connector and gateway. So I think that we'll probably do another round of bounty payouts between this call and the next call. So hopefully we'll update you guys with those. So here are the ones that are completed. I think these were included in the 2.1 release or the 2.01 release. And so we'll be paying them out pretty shortly. So one of them is the new injective Helix connector guide. Thank you, Emerald, if you're on the call for that one. So now that there's a new connector guide for injective Helix on our website. One thing to note is that we moved all the connector guides to the blog section. So there's only one section which includes everything, both Academy posts and the blog posts on our website now. But this connector guide should provide an easy step-by-step process to show you how to set up an injective wallet, how to set a Hummingbot with it, and then to run a basic strategy. So Emerald is one of long-time users. He actually runs a lot of active bots himself. So I think this is a great guide because it comes from a real power user who has been using injective in production. Next we have as I mentioned earlier, Yang Kong has rebuilt the Dexalot connector in pure Python. So now if you try it out in version 2.1, you can basically just connect Hummingbot to Dexalot without using gateway and start using it just like any other order book exchange connector. And then finally, I want to call out Israeli 82 for making the fix to the Coinbase connector, as well as Memento Mori, our longtime Hummingbot Coinbase guru, for helping him and mentoring him in making those changes. But hopefully the Coinbase Advanced Trade Connector is now usable. And for those of you in the US like me, who can only use certain spot exchange connectors, it's one of the ones that we can actually use successfully. And then a few more changes. Dang H added the hash key global connector for both spot and perpetual. So hash key, we actually they were reporting a lot of volume on our dashboard for a while. I think they've since turned that reporting off, which a lot of larger institutional users tend to do. But overall, we have kind of heard that they're using actively for market making and other trading, on that exchange. So hopefully, and for us, we always look forward to having more institutional users because I think it proves out the capacity of Hummingbot to be a truly professional grade framework. And then two more kind of call outs. One is to Tomas or Droopman for upgrading the Bybit Perpetual connector, and to Victor for upgrading or adding the ETCSwap and ETCSwap LP connectors, which are the main AMM dexes on Ethereum Classic. So we do have two kind of current in progress bounties. One of them is the new bounty we recently funded out of the Hyperliquid connector pot, which is to add the Hyperliquid spot connector. So I think this was assigned. Is that correct, Nikita? This was assigned to Israeli 82. So we had a number of people who submitted applications to work on this connector, and basically the main thing we look at is kind of past contribution history and experience, either working on other bounties or contributing to the open source net code base. And so Israeli 82, I think, had the most experience of all the applicants. So we awarded the bounty to him. So yeah, looking forward to contribution there. And overall, I think there was some work done already. Actually, it looks like Israeli has already submitted a PR for this. So so we'll start reviewing it shortly. This one's actually been ongoing for a while. The chain flip integration. I believe that the dev actually might be here. We can just connect you directly. The guys from Nocturnal who funded the bounty, and yes, just engage directly on kind of what it takes to finish it out. On our part, with bounties like this, we kind of like we're really trying to just be the intermediary to make sure that the work is done properly. That we can actually do this. But overall, we kind of make sure that we can just kind of finish this out, do our job while kind of making sure that both sides are happy. So I do think it makes sense to just add you to the conversation, so we can do our part. I think that So I think you add your Telegram ID here, or you DM it to me or Nikita. I think we can add you to the group. Well, yeah. So, and also, I realize so the conversation on our side might be a bit slower, but because we have other kind of things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis as well. To be honest, for community bounties like this, it's actually quite hard for us to really understand what we should be even be testing for, because for connectors like Chainflip, it's not like a normal order book connector or like a normal CEX connector. But we have talked to the bounty givers who are active users of Hummingbot and who are kind of doing this kind of arbitrage manually. So from talking to them, it does seem like there's a good use case for having this connector, at least as a fork to Hummingbot, because there's an active community of people who want to use it for basically cross-chain for arbitrage and cross-chain market making. So that's why, but overall, I think there's some nuances with how this works, because it's a cross-chain, it's a cross-chain DEX. So and with anything with DEXs, like the devil's really in the details, with like wallets, nodes, addresses, and all that kind of stuff. I'm aware of all those nuances. However, I'm not aware of all the nuances for Chainflip, and honestly, it's not really our role to get involved here and understand all the nuances of Chainflip, because Chainflip is not one of our top exchange sponsors. We're really just trying to do this to make sure that this pull request can be satisfied, and we do our job as an intermediary for this bounty process. So that's why, in terms of the nuances of how to kind of like resolve this to completion, just to be perfectly honest, I'm just trying to make sure that we actually can do this successfully. So I think I hear what you're saying, but I would say that I think the best thing we can do is make sure that the developer for Chainflip is talking to the bounty giver for Chainflip, and they can agree on the criteria needed for the connector to be finished, so to speak. But for us, I think it's actually hard for us to get involved here, because we don't know the technicalities of how the Chainflip exchange actually works. So but overall, I think Nikita, if you have any questions on how to resolve this, let me know. I honestly, I think we're spending a bit too much time, in my opinion, from Hummingbot side on Chainflip, because I have some doubts in terms of like whether this Chainflip connector can even meet. It's like, what standard is it? What type of connector is it? So as a Hummingbot user, I would not want this connector in the main open source master branch of Hummingbot, because it doesn't fit any of the existing frameworks we currently have. But I do think it makes sense to have this as a fork, because if there's a group of people that want to use it, for that purpose, I think that's exactly what a fork should be. But I hope that shed some light on this. But overall, I'm interested in just trying to make sure we can resolve this cleanly and well for all participants involved. Okay, so enough on Chainflip, but we do have, as I mentioned, we do have, those are the only two in progress kind of larger bounties I think that we're aware of. We don't have any open bounties currently. However, we are actually looking at a couple of upcoming ones. One, working with the Dexalot team, who they have an upcoming upgrade to the Dexalot connector, which is going live, I believe, in about 9 or 10 days. What we do, unfortunately, even though we just upgraded that connector, another upgrade is needed. So we're working with them to basically find funding for that. But ideally, it's also Yan Kang who does it because it's something that he has expertise in. And the second one is we're actually kind of like we already have basically almost there on a proposal to work on StarkNet, a partnership with StarkNet. So we're kind of in the last KYC stages, but hopefully we can announce it soon. But we likely will be finding Bounties to build connectors to StarkNet AMMs, as well as possibly order book exchanges. But basically, StarkNet has a fairly attractive rewards program, and so we want to work with them to show the community how you can use Hummingbot to automate, basically bots that are earning rewards on StarkNet while also contributing to the volume and liquidity of their dexes. Hopefully we have those two bounties to announce in the next community call. Next, I wanted to go through a few top issues that our QA team has pulled from both Discord and from GitHub. Overall, I think we're going to try to do a better job of trying to figure out what the top issues that the community has and try to address them with future updates. We know we've added a lot of stuff to Hummingbot in the last few months, and overall, we want to make sure that they're actually kind of usable. So one of them is, I think one question in the community is why some connectors are not available on dashboard, such as Dexalot, Coinbase, etc. So here's one representative comment from the community. And the answer is because basically to make dashboard work, the reason it works is because we managed to package Hummingbot as a Python library. And so that's also what powers QuantLab and other things that are now possible with Hummingbot. However, some of the connectors, because of the dependencies, are currently incompatible with the library. So some of our tools like backend API don't work. So basically, it's usually some type of dependency issue. Currently, we have some workarounds. For example, this is why we have a standalone environment file for DYDX. And so we're going to try to introduce these workarounds and make sure the community knows about them for certain exchanges. But we also, long term though, we think there should be a way that we can address this better in the long term to make it so that people can use the library, but also kind of know how to incorporate these new exchanges more easily. But overall, there is this issue where, unfortunately, because of dependency issues, not all connectors can be packaged into the library, which is why they're not available. We also should improve the UI, frankly, on dashboard to try to make it clear which connectors are available and which ones aren't. But overall, yeah, this is the issue that we're trying to do a better job of clarifying in the future. Another question we get is whether the community can use AMM connectors on deploy, like with dashboard and backend API. Currently, they're not. Currently, you cannot. And I would say that the main reason is because currently we've really designed both dashboard and backend API for order book exchanges, spot and perpetual. So overall, and because of that, we're still, I would say, making changes to the UI for dashboard, trying to make sure we can kind of like support the core use cases really well before we move on to new ones. So I do think eventually, deploy dashboard and backend API will support AMM connectors, but at least for the next, I would say, 2 months, I think we're just focused on order book kind of use cases and strategies so that we can do those well first. I think there's still a lot of UI improvements and some core framework improvements we need to make to support order book strategies better. And at the same time, we're also in the process of kind of like rebuilding the technical architecture for Gateway using a new connector, using a new code base called LARP that's still in progress. So I think because of those two things, I think it makes sense to just wait. I would say at least 2 or 3 months before we add AMM connectors into dashboard and backend API. And then another one is, the question is, I want to backtest a strategy with a custom controller on dashboard. How can I do that? So this is actually, I would say, overall, I think backtesting, I think is a really important feature that we added into dashboard. However, it's only compatible with two types of strategies, and one is directional, and the other is market making. And specifically, these strategies need to be built upon the directional controller or the market making controller. And so the reason for that is because backtesting is unfortunately not generic. In order to have a backtestable strategy that's fast and it kind of runs through the engine, it kind of is compatible with the UI that we've built, it kind of has to kind of fit a certain framework. And so that's why we've kind of designed the whole process, like backtesting the engine, the visualization, and everything else to fit either the directional trading controller framework or the market making controller framework. So the short answer is that if you're doing something kind of more that fits those two frameworks, it should be relatively easy to kind of fit your controller into and get it backtestable. However, if you're doing something that's kind of doesn't look like that, let's say arbitrage, for example, then like our backtesting framework doesn't accommodate that. So now you might be able to make it work if you can kind of like redesign the pieces that need to be redesigned. But you'll probably have to be a developer to do that well. So that's a kind of a way to answer, which is I'll say generally speaking, the reason why you don't see commercial backtesting engines available is because backtesting kind of by design has to kind of fit the strategy and fit the execution environment where you want to deploy that strategy. So it's almost like almost every backtester out there is custom built. And now, so you can customize it within some degrees of freedom, but I think you have to understand kind of what that framework allows you to do and what it doesn't allow you to do. So as Fede mentioned, he'll probably create more content around this. I do think it's easiest to start with, like, let's say directional strategies where most of your customization is probably more around how to calculate the indicator, and the way you want to execute based on that is probably very similar. But basically, the more customization you'll be doing, the more things you have to kind of account for in the backtesting. Okay, yes. So Fede added some more nuance in the chat, but hopefully some of the examples that he'll start providing in the live streams will help educate people on how backtesting really works in practice. We always have issues like this where people are reporting specific errors that are happening with an exchange like Bybit Perpetual. So honestly, this is all incredibly valuable for us because we have a very limited bandwidth as an open source project. So we try to kind of focus on the top exchanges. So some of the exchanges where Bybit, we actually should honestly have a commercial relationship with Bybit, but currently we don't yet. So from some of them we don't test regularly. So when users report them, it's always helpful for us because then we can investigate and try to identify what needs to be fixed and hopefully create a bounty for people to fix it. One thing here is that we know that we've added more GitHub repositories like QuantLab, Backend API, Deploy, and Dashboard. But it does help if you submit bug reports to our GitHub instead of to Discord, because it just helps us keep bug issues more organized. So when you can, please submit GitHub to our official GitHub repo, which is Hummingbot/Hummingbot. This is Hummingbot here. But basically, I think because this is kind of the main one that we try to drive people toward, the more kind of like bug reports or issues in that repo, the more we can track it and make sure that we respond and collect information and investigate those issues. We do try to kind of port them from GitHub into Discord and GitHub, but it's always better if they're in GitHub like this. So because we have seen a decrease, unfortunately, in the GitHub bug reports related to previous months. So we suspect part because there's more repos now. Maybe people aren't sure where to submit issues. But if you can, please do submit them via GitHub. We do want to call out a few outstanding issues that we're currently in the process of investigating. So one of them is some users have reported that the Binance connector has experiencing kind of like WebSocket disconnections. I think one user has proposed a potential fix here in this issue, but it's something we're investigating on an ongoing basis. So if you have kind of experienced this as well, please add your findings, add your report to this issue because for us these issues kind of core connectivity issues to our top exchanges are always ones that we want to address proactively. I think this is probably something that is not affecting every user, but it happens probably sporadically. So the more kind of reports we can get, the more kind of like logs that help us identify hopefully what the root causes is and raw fix. We also have issues like this where I think this one is actually related to kind of the issue I mentioned before about compatibility with certain other connectors that require different versions or dependencies. So I think there's a workaround mentioned in this issue regarding this, but basically this is something we're trying to make sure we can handle going forward, because basically the more connectors we add, especially ones that are dexes that are using kind of random kind of libraries, the more they might conflict with other connectors in the code base. So this is actually, I think, a direct product of the fact that we're starting to move these order book dex connectors into the main Hummingbot code base. So we have to make sure that because we're packaging Hummingbot in various ways, every connector might conflict with every other connector. So this is actually honestly one good reason why we have governance in the picture, because that also might help us prioritize which connectors should be in the main official part of Hummingbot, and maybe we should have like a community. You can add additional ones or something like that, from somewhere else. But overall, I think this is an issue that we're trying to resolve on both the short-term basis with like documentation and suggested workarounds, but also on a long-term basis, with like kind of like maybe a different build system or other things like that. I think for us, we want to really focus on resolving the top issues that are identified by the community, because from our side, we know we've added a lot of stuff to Hummingbot in the last few months, and our first priority is ensuring that that they're all usable at the very least, and that the first time user experience for the community is good. Okay, so final section here. Let's move on to governance. I want to announce the results of the recent Epoch 10 polls. So as a reminder, polls are a quarterly process we use to allow the HBOT holders to make it easy for them to govern how Hummingbot works. So the polls really do two things. The first is they vote for which connectors should even be in the code base. So every connector needs at least 200,000 HBOT threshold in order to be included in the release. So this time around, we actually did have 4 connectors which did not meet the threshold. Cube, Bitfinex, Foxbit, and Hashkey. However, because Cube and Hashkey were recently added to the code base, it's probably because the exchange themselves probably likely weren't aware of the vote, and the maintainers probably also didn't vote. The community proposed another vote afterwards to kind of revert, removing those 2 exchanges, and then after those were approved, those connectors were kept in the code base. But we did remove Bitfinex and Foxbit, I believe, are either removed or pending removal. This connector pool also allocates a budget of HBOT tokens, and this basically increases this concept of connector pots I'll discuss a bit later on. But the top 4 exchanges that received allocations were Coinbase, Bybit, XRP Ledger, and Binance. So now each of these exchanges, there's some new allocation of HBOT, and that allocation can be used to propose bug fixes or content bounties or other things like that for these 4 exchanges. On the perp side, one thing I should mention recently is that so we used to do this poll for CEXs, DEXs, and chain connectors, but that didn't really correspond to the actual maintenance work that we had to do to maintain the individual connectors to the exchanges. So I think we proposed this change and it was approved, where now we vote for connectors to CLOP Spot, CLOP Perp, and AMM. And I think this actually aligns much more closely with kind of like the actual code for each connector that we're dealing with, because these are 3 different archetypes for integrations, and so we want to make sure that we kind of like are allocating budget to specific almost like folders in the code base that need maintenance and need upgrading as both the connector changes and the Hummingbot standard changes. So that's why I think this is a good change, because now we can more strictly align kind of like how much funding there is for, let's say, a bug fix that might be needed for a particular connector. On the perp side, so all 10 perp connectors passed the threshold. It's probably a sign that we should probably have more perp connectors in the code base, because it seems like these ones are I think perps are becoming a more widely used standard across all exchanges now. The top 4 that received HBOT allocations were Hyperliquid, Bybit, Binance, and UIDX. So now there's more funding available in those connector pots. And then finally, on the AMM connector side, so only one AMM DEX did not meet the threshold. So that was Plenty, which I think is an AMM on Tezos, I believe. But the top 4 were Uniswap, Curve, PancakeSwap, and Tinyman from Algorand. So congratulations to those 4. And those will also receive more HBOT allocations in their connector pots. So I want to call out the current state of the connector pots. So if you follow this HBOT tracker link, this has a link to the spreadsheet where we kind of track how much was allocated to each exchange, how much was used in bounties, and how much is currently assigned and how much is available. So just as a recap, as a just total summary, currently we've been allocating to these connectors for the past few quarters. So currently we have about 7 million total available, and which including 3 million allocated currently used in progress bounties. We have a total of 10 million that's currently available and open. So across from that, we have 4.5 million on the spot side, 1.9 million on the perp side, and then 1.2 million on the AMM side. So overall, I would say in the past we've been the ones just kind of allocating bounties to this based on kind of like needs from the community in terms of like bug fixes, or let's say a spot connected Hyperliquid, for example, which was funded through the Hyperliquid connector pot. But overall, we want to try to make this process better, because the overall idea here is that the community can decide basically what issues are actually funded by the voting power of the HBOT community. So for instance, now I think after this current state, we have quite a lot available for Coinbase, Binance, OKX as well. And so I think those can fund a number of things besides just kind of bug fixes. For example, there might be some new some new feature on the exchange that that we can take advantage of. For example, actually one feature is we don't support I think hedge mode, I think on all connectors. So there might be some kind of like, maybe we can create strategies that are compatible only with one-way mode, that might be available for Hyperliquid, for example. I think that'd be a use case. That would actually be a good use case of the Hyperliquid pod, actually, is to create kind of like strategies which are, can only run Hyperliquid given the fact that they only have one-way mode, versus other strategies which are currently designed for hedge mode. But overall, we want to try to create more channels for the community to help us decide, what we should be using these connector pots for, because we want ideally the bounty process to be one where it's not just usable by external sponsors, but also it's one where we can actually allocate HBOT to the purposes where the community wants it to be allocated. So the reason it's focused on exchanges is because we found that exchanges are kind of the natural partner for Hummingbot. So if we can allocate maintenance toward exchanges where we don't have a direct partnership, like Coinbase, for example, it helps us ensure that issues raised by the community that need to be addressed, or strategies which are kind of fitted to those exchanges, have the proper amount of funding. Okay, final thing is, I want to kind of like call out the developer support program. So developers program is a monthly program we run to encourage people to provide support on Discord, on the support channel, developer chat, and other places. Because we're rewarding HBOT, in order to participate, you have to sign up and kind of just sign our standard AML form. But if you're interested in doing that, please, I think the link is pinned to the Discord support program channel. We're always looking for people who kind of want to earn some HBOT on the side for answering questions, especially ones that are related to new things like the V2 framework or candles feed or other things like that. And overall, on the developer side, we basically rely upon community developers to fund the operation, or to basically to power the operation of Hummingbot, funded by a lot of external sponsors like exchanges that we work with. So we kind of view Hummingbot as just a conduit for kind of like allowing this open source project to be maintained, but it's really maintained by kind of like usage from users, from basically funding from exchanges, and by effort and work done by community developers. So a lot of stuff we do, like Bounties, this Discord support program, the connector pots, is really hopefully intended to create a more sustainable open source project, where over the long term, we can really create something that's powered by the community, and we're not reliant on, I don't know, sponsorships, or having a hand in hand trying to beg money from larger sponsors. Instead, it's really powered by community usage across both the developer side, as well as on the exchange kind of affiliate agreement side. So that's why I think I think we're trying to kind of do this more regularly in the future. We basically just run this with the same agenda every time, because I want to make sure that we can kind of I kind of showcase all the work that's being done, not just by me, but the other folks in the team, in terms of managing these respective areas. So, for example, Carlito, our community manager, is really the one who's kind of does all the work for governance. Ralph and is doing a lot on the QA side, and Nikita does bounties, and so hopefully this is also a way for me to kind of showcase the work that they've all been doing as well. I do want to leave some space here for discussion. So if you guys have any ideas on what you want to see out of Hummingbot, what improvements, what are the core things we need to fix, please bring them up in the chat. We're also always looking for ideas as well, in terms of what we can use these connector pots to fund. Should we fund bug fixes, strategies, some feature we don't yet support? What should we actually do with them to increase basically the viability and the maintenance that we have for the different exchanges in our code base? And then finally, any questions you have, just feel free to just throw them out there. I'll try to answer them as I can. So that's pretty much it for the community call. What does everyone think of this new format for the community call? Basically, I was just like kind of tired of putting together a Canva presentation every month, and I was trying to kind of like try to crowdsource from our team the content for the call. But in my opinion, hopefully, it has made my job a lot easier because I was able to kind of like just read from a pretty popular list, and I hope it also made the viewers made your experience better as well because you can just go through the agenda and see what the items are and click on all the. So yeah, that was the idea. But if unless any objections, I think we'll try to do this again next time around and try to make it simple for everyone. Really. On the world news side, looks like Trump will be the next president of the U.S. again. Uh, you know, uh, so it's definitely good for crypto in general. Seems like, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So not to be political, but yeah, my my family is pretty left leaning. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know, but overall, I do think it's quite positive for crypto because it's kind of like for a long time, regulation in the U.S. has been very kind of anti-crypto. I mean, we kind of went through this ourselves with getting our quant fund, shut down by the SEC in 2018. But and that was frankly during the last Trump administration. So the last 4 years have been even worse with a lot of just kind of like basically the U.S. really just going after crypto companies. So I do think that the market is kind of picking up the fact that there'll be a more friendly regulatory environment going forward, and it should make things a lot easier for those of us in the industry. So yeah, at least from a professional side, I think that it should be good. But to be honest, I'm concerned long term about the geopolitical implications of this, especially with respect to China and Taiwan. So to all my friends in Asia, good luck, and I think the next 4 years are going to be pretty pretty momentous, I guess. But anyway, I think that that's kind of it for this version of the community call. I do think we'll try to do this more regularly. So I'll try to work with our team to get them scheduled, and put them on the calendar or something like that, and so that people can know when they're coming up and just slot it into their calendars. So, but thank you everyone for joining. It's always good to kind of talk to our long-time community members because you've all seen the evolution of Hummingbot throughout the years, but hopefully it's something that we can keep on going and see it grow in the coming years as well. All right, bye everyone.